Greetings once again from Revelation 14:1, our ministry here in Santa Rosa, California. Always dedicated to the truth, especially in these last days that we live in, the abundance of false teachings that have flooded Christianity of today. We here in Revelation 14:1 have take it as our mission to at least correct some of the misinterpretations that is abound in Christianity. Last week we were talking about the crisis right here that took place right here in Santa Rosa. Fire and parts of the city burnt down. And the topic last week was to get out of the city. We took some scenarios which we considered about the trying to get out of the city while after the crisis has started. And we found out that it's very dangerous. We were personally caught up in this traffic, in this rush to get out of the city. So we decided along the way not to get out of the city, but to go and find a safe place within the city where the burning flames will not touch us or kill us. So, get out of the city. That's what we heard yesterday. We looked into the Bible and we found out that Christ himself has counseled us while it is still good to get out of the city. This week is a continuation of that topic, and Christ specifically said where to go to, up into the mountains. So that's our topic today, up to the mountains, into the mountains. This is one picture that we saw last week, a before picture of that portion of Santa Rosa City that burnt down, and the after picture. A whole neighborhood was burnt. Nothing was left standing. All the houses and cars and everything went down in flame. So that is the things that we will come across in the city during this, if we choose to remain in the cities. Another, so those are the natural disasters that the Bible talks about. Jesus himself was talking in Matthew 24. Earthquakes, fires, and all these natural things that will happen that will cause people to panic and try to get out. Next is rumors of wars. This is a picture of the North Korean army getting itself prepared. The President of the United States of America is beginning to say harsh words about this dictatorship in North Korea, and they in turn are beginning to prepare for war. Remember, what did Jesus say? There will be rumors and rumors of war. It's not only North Korea. Russia is preparing. Iran is preparing. All this getting ready for wars, because they know any war that will take place in any part of the world will affect them. So everyone is on the alert right now. What else did Jesus warn us about? The gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world. Here is a picture of Chinese Christians worshiping underground, hidden from the authorities. Their love for their newfound God, Jesus Christ. They risked their lives to go underground into unknown areas and worship together, praising Jesus Christ, their Lord. So that's in China. The gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world. That's what Jesus Christ himself said. Matthew 24, 15 and 16 is where we ended up last week. And this is what it says. I'll read it to you. It says, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand." Jesus wants all those who read it to understand it. He knows that the majority of people who will read it will just carry on and never take the time to find out who or what is this abomination of desolation. And verse 16 says, "Then when you see this abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, what should you do? Let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains." That's our topic today, flee into the mountains. Okay, now let's see what we can do. Last week too, we quickly went through this at the end of the session, the word abomination. What does it mean? It says here, a thing that causes disgust or hatred. This is just from the dictionary. This atrocity, disgrace, honor, obscenity, outrage, evil, crime, monstrosity. This is what the word abomination means. Everything that is negative, sinful, detestation, loathing, hatred, a feeling of hatred, antipathy, revulsion. So all this is describing the word abomination. So whatever that is, that abomination, that sinfulness, that hated thing, is seen standing in the holy place. Okay, what's the other word that we said there? Desolation. When you see the abomination of desolation standing in, what does desolation mean? A state of complete emptiness or destruction. Bleakness, anguished misery or loneliness. So loneliness, that means that everything has been destroyed. Remember the picture of Santa Rosa? Everything's been destroyed. So destruction, misery, sadness, unhappiness, despondency, sorrow, these are the result of the work of abomination. Destruction, sorrow, everything that is negative. So let's go back and just recite, when you see the abomination, when you see that sinfulness, that hated thing, abomination of desolation. Desolation is destruction. This abomination is causing destruction, loneliness everywhere. When you see it standing in the holy place, that's when you have to take action, immediately. And also, we touched on this verse last week, quickly went through it, on 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. The word says, "Let no man deceive you by any means." Is that what this ministry is standing up for? The deception in Christianity of today. So Paul is writing here to the Thessalonians saying, let no man deceive you. Let no man trick you. Let no man teach you false teachings. For the day shall not come. Because they were talking about the return of Jesus. The day will not come yet, except there shall be a falling away first. And the man of sin be revealed. The man of sin. Paul called him the man of sin. He will be revealed. So that means he is not known at the moment. People are not aware of him. People are uninformed of this person. He's unknown, he's invisible, and he is sinful. He is hated thing. So he's talking about a man now. Remember when Jesus spoke it in Matthew 24, he said, when the abomination of desolation, we don't know whether that's a man or something. But Paul has clarified this issue. He's saying he is a man. That person that Jesus talks about in Matthew 24 is a man, one man. And it says, that man of sin be revealed. So before he comes, this person, before Jesus comes back, this person, the man of sin, will be revealed to you. And what else? He is the son of perdition. Remember the description Jesus said? He is, when you see the abomination of desolation, Paul described him as the son of perdition. So if he says a son, it's a man. A man that he's a son of destruction. Everything he touches will be destroyed. I hope that you can start to think now who this man is. And we've been shouting about this man for ages now. The son of perdition, the man of sin, the Pope of Rome. He is the head of this sinful, fake Christianity. Remember Alberto Rivera, the ex-Jesuit priest? He told us that about this man. He told us about the fake Christianity that was formed in the early Christian era to counter the true Christianity that was spreading all over the place, Southern Europe and into North Africa. That was the spread of Christianity, which spread all over the place at that time. And the devil himself, Satan, according to the Bible, created this fake Christianity and baptized their pagan idols and named them from the Bible. Mary, Peter, and all this. So, fake Christianity. This man of sin is the head of that fake Christianity. He is the son of perdition. He destroys everyone who does not come and follow him. Last week, we mentioned that we will be talking today about Daniel chapter 11. This was the YouTube channel that we wanted you to go and watch. For those of you who watched it, it was one of our earlier videos. And I'm sure that today's presentation will be much more clear for you. For those who haven't, after this, you could go into there. This is in the YouTube. Get those URL and type it in, and you'll get to this video. It's titled Islam as Foretold by the Bible in Daniel 11. That's the topic of that. So do that. It's more into detail on what will happen in these last days regarding Daniel 11. This is very briefly what Daniel 11 talks about. We have the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. One was led by Seleucid and one was led by Ptolemy. Seleucid was from Assyria and Ptolemy from Egypt. Eventually, this took place during the Greek era. When we study history, we started with Babylon. You know, the head of gold of that image that Nebuchadnezzar dreamt of. Head of gold was Babylon. And then the chest of silver was Medo-Persia. And then right after Medo-Persia was the next kingdom, which was Greek. And who was the leader of that Greek kingdom? Alexander the Great. He conquered the world in really high speed. He took over all the civilized world at that time. And then he died at the age of 30. At the age of 30, he died and he was taken over by 4 of his generals. And 2 of his generals are these: Seleucid, who took over the northern kingdom, and Ptolemy, who took over the southern kingdom. After they shared the Greek Empire. Seleucid had the north. To the west was another general. To the east was another general. To the south was Ptolemy. But these 2 quickly captured the areas that those other 2 were given. And then we ended up with the northern and the southern kingdom. The king of the north and the king of the south. Seleucid and Ptolemy. But right after the Greek Empire came the Roman Empire, if you remember that image. The leg of iron of that image represents Rome. Rome took over the northern. All the northern. He took up the king of Assyria's areas. And he also went up into Europe. So that's why written there, Seleucid, which was eventually taken over by Rome. When Jesus Christ came into this world, Rome was ruling all that area. All this area up in the north. And the south was dominated by Egypt. Remember? Egypt. Those were the 2. And also, Rome represented Christianity. But which Christianity are we talking about? Remember Alberto Rivera. He's talking about fake Christianity. The one that was formed by the devil in Rome in about 200, 300 BC, AD, after Christ, to counter the spread of Christianity all over Europe and all over North Africa and into the Middle East. To counter that, Satan set up this fake Christianity, which is the Roman Catholic. But you see, the northern kingdom at the top, the southern kingdom at the bottom, who's right there in between? It's Israel. So everything that these 2 are doing when they fight against each other, Israel is affected because it's right there in between, sandwiched between the 2 kingdoms. That's physically. Spiritually too, it'll be the same. In these last days that we live in, Rome, headed by the Pope, and the northern kingdom, the king of the south is Islam, It does not have a head right now, but one will come up. Either Ahmadiyya of Iran or somebody else. But this is the situation. In between these two, the fight between Christianity, fake Christianity we are talking about here, and Islam will be the true Christians. So everything that these two do, the Christians, who are right there, sandwiched in between, just like Israel here physically, will be affected. They will be affected. George Bush, while he was president, this is George Bush Jr., when before America invaded Iraq, this is what he said. On the eve of the war in Iraq, George Bush talked about a crusade. He was obviously quite pleased with himself for having thought of such a catchy phrase. But he was quickly silenced by his advisors, who pointed out to him that the word crusade has very unfortunate association for the Muslim world. Just the use of that one word reminds the whole of the Muslim world of the fight between these two kings, the king of the north and the king of the south, in the past. There were times when the king of the north, the Pope, got hold of his large army and went down south and raided the Islamic states of the south. And there were times when Islam got its great army and came up north and invaded Europe. So this was called the Crusades by the Christian, when the Christians, the Christian army called the Crusades, the Crusaders. And Bush thought that using of that word was a smart move, but he was quickly advised that that word reminds the Muslims of those days when they were raided by the Crusaders. And he quickly retracted. And that is found in this Marxist, www.marxist.com. This is what is happening today. That's the same picture that we have about the king of the north and the king of the south as depicted in history. Israel physically is right in between. Today it's this way. King of the north, the whole of northern Europe. And who is the king of the north? The Pope himself. Who is the king of the south? Islam. These are the two powers. When these two powers go against each other, the unfortunate Israel is right there in between. And you see what's happening. I'll just go through a scenario in what is happening in the world today. Well, Daniel 11 verse 40 says, so we are seeing those pictures of the northern and the southern kingdom. This is what Daniel 11 says about these two kings. Verse 40 of Daniel 11 says, and at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him being the king of the north. So the king of the south, Islam, comes up and started pushing into the areas of the king of the north. And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind. When will that happen? In the time of the end. And we are saying that we live in the time of the end. So has this happened? It's beginning to happen. We are seeing things happening. We are seeing Islam causing trouble everywhere in Europe. That's the area of the king of the north. They've pushed from their southern resident up into the north. And it says here in Daniel 40, the king of the south push at him, at the king of the north. And what will the king of the north do? The king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, and it'll invade the south. What with? With chariots and with horsemen and with ships, and he shall enter into the countries. So that is what we as Bible prophecy students should be expecting. We should be watching the news about this thing to happen. The king of the north will form a big army, a military power, and go down south and invade all these countries. And it says, enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. So this military might will have no problem in destroying the southern kingdom. And verse 41 said, he shall enter also into the glorious land. What is the glorious land? That place in between these two. So coming up from the north, we will, like a whirlwind, will invade the south. And then it says he will also enter into the glorious land, that sandwich, that country that's sandwiched between the two kingdoms, Israel. And that's exactly what, in another form. King of the north represented by fake Christianity, which is headed by the Pope himself. And also the king of the south, Islam, who does not have a visible head right at the moment, but we know there are a few heads of these countries which have been eliminated in the recent past, and right now we have the Ayatollahs of Iran and other leaders of the southern countries, whose name come up in the news every now and then. So that is a picture of what will happen. And as a Bible prophetic student, we should be aware of this and expecting that things will happen just like the Bible has described here in Daniel 11. That's also we've already went through those verses. So today, plans are underway. Things that have not happened. We've gone through Daniel 11, 40 and 41. But read through the whole chapter. It'll in detail describe what has already happened in the past and what will happen in the future. We, today, observation. Bible prophetic students should be observers, looking at what's happening around the world, reading the news, and watching the news on TV. We are already witnessing the plans taking place with our very eyes. Watch the news. You'll be aware of these things happening. Bible prophecy students should be already planning to get out of the cities they live in. Remember the recent Santa Rosa fire and its effect on people trying to get out. This is one thing that those who study prophecy should be doing. The third point, plan and begin to work on getting out while there is still time. While we are still living in peaceful times, get out of the city. And don't be caught up in that rush to get out when the crisis is already happening. Choose a home on the outskirts. If it's difficult to go right out into the remote, at least live on the outskirts of the cities where you don't have to rush into the freeway at the same time. So you're already outside of the city. Live out of the city and then come into and work in the cities. That's what you should be doing. This is what the Bible will enlighten us to do when we study prophecy. buy a land in a remote area. While you're living and working here, start to purchase lands outside the cities. And also have an exit strategy. Remember, even when you live outside of the city, this hardship will come to you. People will look for food, and they will end up where there is food, and you will be, because you're out there and you're planting your own food and you have your own, you are self-sufficient. People will come over and see what they can get out of you. That's what we should be doing as Bible prophecy students, planning on getting out of the city. The Vatican itself has its own plan. Vatican plans to relocate to Jerusalem. This is an article from the Associated Press, Sunday, January 15th of this year, January 15th, early this year. Vatican City. The Vatican stressed the sacred nature of Jerusalem on Saturday, as the Palestinian leader warned that prospects for peace could suffer if the incoming Trump administration goes ahead with plans to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Look at who is being mentioned here. We have the Palestinian leader, and who is he talking to about this issue of America moving into Jerusalem? He's talking to the Pope. What has the Pope got to do with Jerusalem? You see, this man of sin, or the son of perdition, has power everywhere, even in the Holy Land. This person who is the inhabitant of Palestine is bringing his problem in Palestine not to Israel, who they are fighting against, but to the Pope, to the man of sin, to that son of perdition. He has power even in the Holy Land. So we remember that verse that we're saying in chapter 24 of Matthew. Okay, to continue from there, it says, the development came as Palestinian President Mahmoud, the president of Palestine, Abbas, met with Pope Francis and inaugurated the Palestinian embassy to the Holy See. That is another thing that we should realize. All the nations of the world are flocking to Rome to have an embassy, to have one of their representatives in the Vatican. Not to Rome. Rome is a separate country. The Vatican is just that 100 and something acre within Rome. So all these nations, including Palestine, want a representative of their country in the Vatican. The President-elect Donald Trump to move the embassy to Jerusalem. The Palestinians strongly opposed the embassy move, saying it would kill any hopes of negotiating an Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement and rile the regions by undercutting Muslims and Christian claims to the Holy City. So they are concerned because America, or Trump, has said that he wants to move his embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. No one has his embassy in Jerusalem. But now America is saying, I want my embassy right there in Jerusalem. Back to Daniel 11. To summarize those stories about what's happening around the world, and let's go back to Daniel 11. The king of the north will come down on the king of the south like a whirlwind. So expect that. Very soon, it says, in the time of the end, the king of the north, Daniel 11:40, will come down on the king of the south. Why? Because the king of the south had been disturbing him in the north, into his area. And you see that every day on the news. Is Muslims in London protesting. They control the whole cities in London, in Europe, in France, Germany. This is the king of the south into the areas of the king of the north. It's happening, Daniel 11. It's happening today. It says, when will that happen? In the time of the end, the king of the south will come into the areas of the king of the north. So that's already happening. The part that has not happened is the second part, which says, then the king of the north, what will he do? Will come down on the king of the south like a whirlwind. And finally end up in the glorious land. The Bible is so specific. Very soon, you'll see what the king of the north or the Pope will arrange to counter the king of the south, disturbing his area of control up in the north. Very soon. And then there's secret plans of the Vatican to build another temple in Jerusalem. You go into Google these things out. The Vatican is already planning to destroy the mosque that's sitting right there on the holy place where King Solomon had built the original temple. The temple was destroyed in AD 70 as prophesied by Jesus. Remember when he said to his disciples, not one of these stones will remain. And they, in AD 70, 35 years after Jesus died, or 37, after he died, the temple was destroyed. Islam built its holy temple right there, and it's still standing there today. But there's a plan, underground plan. Read about it, research about it, by the Vatican itself to rebuild the third temple of the Jews. The Jews are there, they are aware of the differences, but they will allow this person who will come and rebuild a temple for them. Read about it. King of the North reigns now in the holy place. Once he's achieved that, he will reign in the holy place, just like Daniel 11 said. When you see this man standing in the holy place, what should you do? Flee. Flee into the mountains. Matthew 24:17, I'll just quickly go through these verses. It says, when you see this thing happening, verse 16 before that, verse 17 says, let him who is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. So if he is to flee, what is this verse saying? Get down on the ground and run. Don't go back into the house. That shows how desperate it is. You were too late. Just like that night when we got out of this apartment and tried to go out on the road. The road just out here leads to the freeway. We couldn't get out, so we had to take another direction. The direction to the freeway was all so if you're on top of the house, get down on the ground and run. Neither let him which is in the field return back to his house to get his clothes. If you are already out of the house somewhere out there in the fields, from there, go straight to the mountains This is how desperate this thing is. And woe unto them that are with child. I'm just thinking of this time of the history, whether it's wise to be still having children. Because it says here, and woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. Those with heavy, those who are still carrying, and those who have tiny babies, who still have to be carried around because they have to run with this baby. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. We will come more deeply. You have to dig more deeper into that to find out the deep meanings that why Jesus mentioned that. Not in the winter and not on the Sabbath day. Verse 21 says, for then shall be great tribulations, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time. No, nor ever shall be. So you see, when that has happened, when you see the man of sin right there in the holy place, it's already too late. Because that's a desperate situation. If you're on top of the house, don't get back into the house. Get down and run. If you're out in the field, don't go and get your clothes. From there, you run. It's already too late. We don't want to be stuck in that. That's why we are saying, now is the time to get out. Get out of the city. Don't come in and work. Come in and work. Get out of the cities. How will you do that? You have to think. Use God's wisdom. Pray. How can I get? If you don't have money, have the intention to get out of the city. God will open doors for you. Verse 15 and 16, I repeat, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, the king of the north is come, raided the south, and is now in the glorious land. He builds that temple and is there running. That's the time. It's already too late, but you still can run. Flee into the mountains. That's where we will end today. But I think that we've learned a few things, that God still gives us time, even if you choose to stay in here, in the cities. When things happen, you still can run away. Because it says there, don't get back in there, run. So he knows that you still can survive that. But the wise thing to do is to follow his counsel. While things are still here, we've been warned. For us here in Santa Rosa, the last 3 weeks was a warning to us. Bible studying Christians should be getting out of the city. We've seen the problem that happened right here in our city. We cannot get out on the freeway. Get out of the freeway today, now, while we still can. So that's, I think we have not really touched into the mountains part of it, but we will dig more into that, to go into the mountains. Who is the mountain? Is it a physical mountain, or is it a mountain that Christ is referring to, which is himself? Yes. So I hope that what we've shared today will help us make a decision that will affect our families right now. We need to do that. We need to make a decision to get out of the cities before it is too late. We live in these last days. We are seeing the king of the south getting up into the northern region. We are yet to see the king of the north rush down and like a whirlwind and end up in Jerusalem. Be aware of what's happening. Watch the news and make a decision today to get out of the cities. Let us pray.